Good morning, everybody. You tuned in to Crack Call. Thank you for being here with me today. Today is... fucking hell, what day is it? It's Friday the 25th of August 2023. And let me tell you, what a mad world we're living in, you know. Honestly, man, yesterday I read an article about the 15-minute cities that are happening everywhere. I don't know what's going on out in Europe. I've heard that there's a few out there, but it's definitely the forerunner to these high-rise building things that they're going to be trying to build that contain everything. Like, this is just the forerunner to that, isn't it? In the UK, there's already one, Oxford, and there's more planned. I think Bristol, Edinburgh, a few places, man. I can't remember off the top of my head all the different places. There's about 5 or 6. But it's very interesting where these things have been planned for. Very interesting indeed, and I'll get to that. But just a bit of an interesting read. It's on the website Politico, so I urge you go and read it. Just type in 15-minute cities UK or Oxford 15-minute city and find the Politico article on Google or whatever, Safari, whatever you use, and just give it a read. It's very, very interesting. It's coming from the angle that ridicules anybody that disagrees with it, that questions it. I find that extremely interesting. What it does is it says anybody who disagrees with this is in the same category as, and quotes, flat earthers and people that believe the world is run by reptile people, lizard people. So, if you question the efficacy of the 15-minute city, then you will be ridiculed as such. You know, insert shame here. So, it also says something else, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it basically alludes to the fact that if you disagree, oh, that's it. It says that anybody who is anti-globalist will disagree with this, or something to that effect, alluding to that it's the right way of thinking. Remember, because you've got to read between the lines, you've got to get in through the back door with what they're trying to tell you, which means that it's the right way of thinking to be a globalist, because they've already preloaded in this article that if you disagree, you believe that the world is run by lizard people and you're a flat earther, or at least you're in the same category as. And that's been ridiculed to the hilt, hasn't it? So if you now, because they've put it in the same category now, they've put it in the same bed. If you disagree with globalism, therefore you must now be a globalist. It's the right way of thinking to say, okay, well, I'm a globalist then. That's what you're supposed to say. It's pushing that narrative, which means, in my opinion, this is part of the globalist agenda. I mean, of course it is. Come on. But anyway, they're also quoting people like Kate, God, I can't remember her name. They call her a far right-wing political speaker, or something to that effect. I mean, I've seen a few of her videos, and she said an awful lot during all of the other, you know, the stuff that happened at the turn of the decade. But, I mean, say what you will about her. She's got the bollocks to say what she feels, whether it's right or wrong. You know, and that in its own right deserves a clapping, in my opinion. you know? I mean, the fact that they're considering everybody who disagrees with this to be far right. It's so funny. And they also say that disagreeing, now this is in the first paragraph. In fact, no, it's not in the first. It's in the first paragraph of where they're quoting this guy that they did an interview with, part of the planning team or whatever. He says that if you disagree with the 15-minute city, he considers that fascism. Wow, man. So simply by questioning something, you're now a fascist. This is setting the narrative. This is setting the narrative, and if you can't see that, well, then you're crazy, because it's right there in black and white. This is what people are saying. This is the narrative that is being pushed out. Remember, this article is meant to, like, gel with the people that agree with this stuff. That's why it's heavily slanted towards that. So it's supposed to get these people into thinking that globalism is right. If you disagree with anything, you're a fascist. You couldn't be more wrong. It's also meant to incite argument, I do believe, of course. But you see, argument is good. Bring it the fuck on, man. Now, I personally think it's very interesting where they're planning these things. I mean, look at Oxford, for instance. They have a ring road going all the way around it now, and there are certain areas that you can't access by vehicle. Okay? They're saying it's part of the green agenda. Now, you know, the green plan. Now, the green agenda was paralleled with all the other stuff at the turn of the decade. I heard it at the turn of the decade. I heard it on the radio. I had to go and work for a popular fucking online shopping company. I shan't mention any names, because I was put out of business. I was self-employed at the time, and I was put out of business being told that I was not necessary. What was the word they used again? I can't fucking remember, but it was horrible. They said that I was not necessary, that my business wasn't necessary, basically. So I had to go and work for a very popular online shopping store, picking orders. And I had to get training. I had to get training and wear a badge to say I'd received my training for using a pump truck. Oh my God. I remember standing there with this pump truck, like, fucking sweating, thinking, if I fail this, this spotty oik over here is going to consider me, I don't know, inadequate. I need to pass my pump truck training, man. I got to wear a little badge on a lanyard to say that I'd received and passed my training. Believe me, I was very proud. Oh, did I wear it with pride? And did I walk around that warehouse with pride as I tugged that pump truck behind me? You know, just knowing that I was a cut above the rest. Looking down from my shadowy tower at all the mere mortals that were still picking orders in their little cages. My God. But anyway, I was deemed unable to work, and I can't remember where the fuck I was going with that. But basically, there are schemes to say that you cannot go in and out of certain places using a motor vehicle. Now, there is an actual part of this interview that says that the motor vehicle is something that's killed society. Now, I beg to differ, man. Oh, that was right. I was saying that that was all paralleled. The green agenda was paralleled with the stuff that was going on at the turn of the decade. Now, ultimately, I was sat in the break room at that place and I heard it on the radio. They had one advert and then the other advert after it, an advertisement for all the shit that was going on, and then an advertisement for the green stuff. And it just sparked my interest, and I was like, why are they saying that after that? Why are they paralleling this with this? They're trying to put it in your mind at the same time. And fucking hell, haven't they done that? I remember saying it at the time to somebody and they said I was crazy. Fuck you. Anyway, let's not let pride get in the way here. So it's all been like this is another part of it with the motor vehicles, as they say. Apparently the Conservative Party over here has said that the motor vehicle has stifled this rich vision of what the UK should have been. Now, obviously, this is in tandem with the green agenda, because what they want now is for people to have electric cars. This is what it says in the article as well. They want everybody to either walk, use a push bike, public transport, or an electric car. Every single one of those modes of transport can be restricted from outside forces, more so than things like, say, diesel, petrol, LPG. The only thing that restricts you from buying diesel is whether or not it's ran out and whether you've got the money to buy it. You know, on a side note, enter the the digital currency, the digital banking stuff. Then they'll start restricting what you can spend your money on, your allotted fuel allowance, these kind of things. That's not going to fly. That's getting too much backup. They will still do it, but it's getting an awful lot of row. Now, each one of these modes of transport can be restricted from outside forces. Of course it can. You think about it. There's only so far you can walk. There's only so far you can cycle comfortably. And there's only so far that public transport can take you. Especially if you're living within a confined city where there is only certain amounts of public transport available to you. Let's just say that within a certain area, you can only get public transport to a certain area within that area. And let's just say you've got a bus pass, a coded bus pass that says you can only travel this far, or you can only use these buses. You're only allowed to use these buses because that's as far as you're theoretically allowed to go, because this is where you work, this is where you live. You don't need to travel any further. It's a bit far-reaching, but you never know. Needless to say, though, public transport can be controlled by what services are available within any given area. And electric cars, last but certainly not least, only have a certain amount of charge. Not only that, the 5G network will be available for these people to tap into your car and perhaps even turn them off. With all of the number plate recognition, facial recognition, you will have everything on file at this point. Where you live, where you work, you know, where you're from. And these vehicles, make no mistake, will be connected to the Internet of Things. I mean, they already are, through sat-navs. I don't know if you've looked at modern sat-navs that are inbuilt nowadays, but they know exactly where you are. In certain vehicles, you get certain systems that have already got the automatically updated map system, so that if you set it to autopilot nowadays, it's not just fucking cruise control, autopilot, it will slow you down for certain bends because it knows what fucking bends can be taken at what speeds, all of these things. It will slow you down for roundabouts. It's all wired in. So these systems are already in place. The infrastructure is there. So they will be able to control and manipulate where you're able to go in an electric vehicle. Now, in a motor vehicle, not so much. Hence the attack. Now, I personally think, and this is something that came to me whilst I was having a shower, thinking about this, I was like, maybe we've got to look at this the opposite way round, because people are running from this, saying that this is all about confinement. And that seems to be what the right, to quote, right-wingers are saying. I dare say the controlled narrative. Right wing, left wing, it's all a load of bollocks. It's just for and against any agenda. Anything that's against the fucking right wing agenda is just fucking left wing. And anything against that agenda is just a fucking different wing of the same bird. It's a load of shite. Don't get involved in all of that, it's crap. But I personally believe, considering that this is being pushed, and what does it do, right? It tells you anybody who disagrees with this is a fucking mad conspiracy theorist that believes the world is controlled by lizard people and flat earth. Now, what that does is it tells you to not look at it. These people can now just get on with what they're doing, because people are just going to, oh well, I'm not going to agree with that. I'll let them get on with it. They also tell you it's all about convenience. All right? Anything that they've ever given you that is for convenience has always been, in the end, I would say 100% of the time, has always been, in the end, about control and manipulation. Of course, these things are always given to you under the guise of convenience. Separation, control, manipulation. But you see this, all of these statements that are against it now. So now the only fucking statement that you've got to relate to that's against this in these types of articles are statements that get you to be afraid of it, that make you want to run away from it. Now, I believe that's a key point, because if you want to run away from these 15-minute cities, good. That's what I personally believe is being missed here. That's the hidden part of this agenda, because I don't believe that these 15-minute cities are there to contain people. I personally believe they're being built to keep people out. I believe that's the ultimate end game for these places. Think about it. This is part of the agenda. It's part of the globalist agenda. These people are selfish, they're evil, they're spiteful, they only care about themselves. They aren't going to to develop a beautiful new place and allow the scum of the earth to live there, are they? Absolutely not, is the answer to that. They're not going to make all of this convenience and all of this lovely, oh, all you've got to do is walk from here to there type of community. They're not going to build that for the scum of the earth. No, they're not. They're only going to build that for the types of people that are able to live there and serve. And everybody else can go. So what they do is they set this narrative so that anybody with a free mind that's able to question this will run a mile. They're like, no, 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 I don't want to be contained. I don't want to be controlled and manipulated. So I'm going nowhere near this. Good, that's what they want. They don't want you there. They want you on the outside of the walls with the rest of the bones. So that once you've ran away, you are now outside the walls, just like Daenerys Stormborn outside of Karth. If you've ever seen the fucking Game of Thrones, there's all bones outside. That's where they want you. They want you outside of the city. Think about where these things are being built. They're architecturally and educationally brilliant. Oxford University, Edinburgh University. Think about the architecture in these places. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. These places are rich in many things of beauty. Now, who gets to go to Oxford? Who can afford to go there? You know, to be educated at Oxford. Let me tell you this, it's a different type of education that you get there. Why is it that people that go to these schools seem to succeed to greater heights in society? Ask yourself that. It's not a coincidence, that's for sure. So just think about that. Why are they going to give the scum of the earth, the way they see them, access to these beautifully convenient cities that are built around beautifully presented places in regards to architecture and with regards to the way that they educate people? They're not going to do that. They're not going to give that to the layman, are they? No, no, no. The only people that are going to be able to live there are those that are able to afford to live there, and those that they deem worthy of living in such a beautiful place. Now, I think the architecture is personally a massive key part of the globalist agenda. It's something that I've been thinking about for about a year or so now, since I heard about the artistic side of creation versus the capitalist side of creation. And the fact that we don't recreate any of this architecture today, the fact that a lot of it has been destroyed and knocked down, and the stuff that is remaining has been repurposed into religion. It's been repurposed as religious buildings. Now, why is it that all of these great structures that remain have been repurposed, in my opinion, repurposed as places like cathedrals and stuff like that? Why is that? Well, religion is just one hand of the fucking control network, isn't it? And the cathedrals are for the dirtiest of this regime. So that's where I stand with it. You've got to look at all the pieces. If you try and get in to these cities later on down the line, give it 100 years, you try and get into these cities, everywhere else is wasteland. Everywhere else has been gone to rack and ruin. It's now poverty stricken because all of the finance has been spent on redeveloping these places under the noses of the common person, because of the misdirection tactics that were used, such as shame, all of these kind of things that I've already mentioned. So now they've been built, and the only people that can live there are those that can afford. The only people that deserve the convenience and the beauty are those that can afford it. Everybody else who can't afford has had to live elsewhere. Has been left to rack and ruin. Now, you've got big roads that go around these places that already direct traffic around these cities. They say it's for the environment and stuff like this, but how could it be? Because at the end of the day, the environment is still going to be knackered, because you've got now a collective of vehicles that are travelling in a concentrated area now, as opposed to being dispersed. You know, and yes, they're moving around slightly quicker on a dual carriageway perhaps, but the traffic is still there. It's not fucking gone away, is it? It's all a load of bollocks. It's in my opinion, it's bollocks, and it's there just to give them a reason to do whatever it is they want to do. Look at all the stuff that came in under the stuff that happened at the turn of the decade. I like that. I'm going to keep using that. And look at all the stuff that's happening under the green agenda. It's all very parallel. So just think, 15-minute cities. Are they to keep you out, or are they to keep people in? You decide. I've given my theory on the matter. In my opinion, it's simply to keep people out eventually. That's why everything has been geared towards making folks like you and I want to run a mile from these places. So we, with our free will, of course, leave them for either those that just want to get along with it, those that are willing to give their lives to the regime, those that can afford it, so on and so forth, so that we can just be left to rot out in the wasteland, the ultimate eventual wasteland. Remember, these people aren't going to give you anything of any substance or any value unless you're willing to toe the line. It's not convenience. It's about control. It's about manipulation. That's what they're after. And anybody that's willing to be a part of this will be controlled, will be manipulated. It'll all be geotagged, man. And on that note, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm going to thank you very much for being here with me today. This is Cragcore signing off. I want to wish love and peace to all things everywhere. Peace.